This is going to be the first response video I've ever made. I am of the opinion that turning on Keep Inventory is, and rightfully should be, considered cheating. At some point, I stumbled upon a video titled Keep Inventory is not a cheat Mojang by someone called Richard Rogue. The arguments he made in his video are quite bad, which is why I decided to make a response video to point out all the reasons those arguments are bad. For the sake of this video, I'm only going to be focusing on the points Richard makes and not any other issues his video has, since they are most relevant to this video. I will be refuting Richard's points as well as explaining why it makes perfect sense that Keep Inventory should be a cheat. Since Richard's arguments are based specifically on the Bedrock Edition, I will also be basing my arguments on the Bedrock Edition. I'm doing that not only because Bedrock is my area of expertise, but also to avoid any possible confusion that may arise if I didn't specify otherwise. Now that I've got all of that out of the way, let's start by hearing Richard's first argument.
Firstly, Keep Inventory doesn't drastically alter the core gameplay experience of Minecraft like other cheats. Now, what I mean by the core gameplay experience of Minecraft is the gameplay loop of mining, crafting, and exploring that is present throughout. For example, players explore the world scouring for resources that they can mine, which they then can use to craft the structures of their desires and tools they need to explore even more of the world. With cheats enabled, players can completely break this gameplay loop by doing a variety of things. Some of these things include using commands to fly and locate naturally generated structures, which bypasses the fun of exploration, switching to creative mode to get insane amounts of resources that are desired or needed, which eliminates the need to mine, and the ability to spawn in and enchant tools and weapons, which takes away from the crafting somewhat. When you sit down and compare what Keep Inventory does to all the other possibilities that can be accomplished with cheats, the Keep Inventory option doesn't seem to be in the same league as a cheat.
I have an issue with Richard's definition of the core gameplay loop, as it excludes quite a few features which would be key to Minecraft's actual gameplay loop, such as building, trading, and most importantly, combat. By adding those into the definition of the core gameplay loop, Keep Inventory does interfere with combat, since dying in combat with Keep Inventory on benefits the player by healing them to full. Meanwhile, dying in combat with Keep Inventory off puts the player at a disadvantage. I don't think Richard left those features out on purpose, but I'm not entirely sure because his examples of cheating correlate to only the 3 features he listed. I would guess that Richard didn't intend to make this mistake when presenting his argument, in which case a simple etc. at the end of his sentence would have easily fixed things. On a similar note, Keep Inventory does interfere with exploration a little bit, as instead of having to navigate all the way to their home, the player can simply teleport themselves back as if nothing happened. Not to mention how Keep Inventory makes food redundant, as with the help of a bed, the player can immediately heal themselves to full and won't face repercussions for doing so. As for the idea that Keep Inventory isn't in the same league as other cheats, that's simply not true, even by Richard's standards. If we are to take his definition of the core gameplay loop as a measurement by which to determine what is and isn't cheating, we will quickly find that many cheats do not interfere with the supposed gameplay loop of mining, crafting, and exploring that is present throughout. Always Day, mob spawning, mob griefing, entities dropping loot, and the weather cycle all have little to no effect on mining, crafting, and/or exploring. That would essentially mean Keep Inventory is in the same league with these cheats. Unless Richard also happens to believe these features aren't cheats either, that means he doesn't actually think the definition of cheating abides by his standards of the core gameplay loop. It's entirely possible Richard made that definition up just to argue that Keep Inventory is not a cheat and for nothing else. All of that without mentioning that if we're to take his definition very literally, an item such as the automatic crafting table, which takes away from crafting, should be considered cheating according to Richard. Clearly, there's a bit more nuance to cheating than what Richard's letting on. So, how about I come up with a refined definition of cheating in Minecraft going forward? For a point of reference, I've chosen the Bedrock Edition Vanilla Survival Mode on normal difficulty with all the gameplay modifiers and the settings set to default. In order to distinguish between what features are and aren't cheating, there will be 2 major points to consider. Firstly, Does this feature make the game significantly easier or harder? Something like hardcore mode is a significant change to the game, but since it makes the game unambiguously harder, it's obviously not a cheat. Features that make the game easier, such as keep inventory, as well as features like commands, sprinting, and netherite pickaxes will all be considered privileges. This brings us to the second point of consideration. Is the amount of labor required to obtain and maintain this privilege proportional to the amount it makes the game easier? Labor is the amount of work put into progressing in all aspects of Minecraft through its core gameplay loop. Unfortunately, this point is a bit more subjective. Some players might think features like netherite pickaxes are too easy to obtain for their power level, while others might think they are too hard to obtain. What is objective, however, is the fact that features like keep inventory, commands, sprinting, etc. require no labor to obtain. Keep inventory doesn't require labor to maintain either, meaning under this new definition, it would be a cheat just like commands. I know that on the surface, this definition sounds circular. I'll get to why I chose it in a bit, but first, I have to address something. If you're an astute viewer of my channel, you might know that I always have show coordinates turned on. If a case could be made that this feature is considered cheating under my definition, I'm willing to concede that it should be considered a cheat. I'd rather be upfront about it now because if I do that, no one can use it against me. Besides, Console Edition implemented coordinates in a really clever way, and I'd prefer it if Bedrock used that system instead. It would be more beneficial if more features were designed that way. Since I'm on the topic of game design, let's listen to Richard's next argument.
Because keep inventory isn't on par with other cheats, I feel that is more of a gameplay aid than anything else. This is why I say that keep inventory aids the core gameplay experience when enabled. This is done by its ability to smooth over a road bump presented by a certain gameplay mechanic when enabled: death. When a player dies, they drop everything that's in their inventory. This takes the player out of the gameplay loop, as they must now try and navigate their way back to their stuff before it's lost forever. This sucks, as it doesn't allow for the player to return to the core gameplay loop until they either recover their stuff or fail/give up on collecting their items. What's even worse is if the players can't get their stuff back, they may get discouraged from exploring as much or as far in the future, which can prevent the player from getting the resources that they want and or need to craft and create, which then gets in the way of exploration, potentially creating a domino effect that ultimately ruins any enjoyment that a player may get from playing in their world. This is where keep inventory comes into play. With keep inventory on, players can hop directly back into the core gameplay loop immediately upon respawning. This is because they don't have to waste their time searching for their stuff or worry about losing hours of progress upon death. Sure, if players want to pick up where they left off, they will still have to go through the hassle of finding their way back to where they died. But, at the end of the day, Minecraft is a survival sandbox video game, so there needs to be some kind of repercussion for failing to survive. I feel that returning to your spawn point is punishment enough.
There's a lot to break down and refute in this section. He's practically begging the question, why is just returning to spawn point enough of a punishment? Or better yet, is it really too much punishment for a player to lose their inventory upon death? Richard has correctly identified that dying sucks. He has also identified that the point of dying is that it's supposed to suck, given that he said Minecraft needs to have some kind of repercussion for failing to survive. Dying is supposed to suck for the player, at least in the beginning of the game. The player's actions have consequences, meaning the game must have a mechanism for discouraging said player from making bad decisions. The most efficient way for the game to dissuade the player from making bad decisions is by making the punishment something severe. The problem is the amount of punishment from dying with keep inventory on is basically nothing more than a slap on the wrist. With beds, the player has an extremely high degree of control over where they set their spawn from early on in the game. If they remembered that every time they explored their world and always set their spawn point nearby, including placing beds next to their nether and end portals, they would receive an extremely low amount of punishment from dying in practically every single scenario where they had keep inventory on. Considering that, it's highly unlikely the player would face meaningful or deserved consequences from dying with keep inventory on if they faced any at all. And that's all without mentioning how the player can avoid consequences from dying if they are playing the game properly. I don't know if Richard did this on purpose, but he completely neglected talking about the privileges that act as functional in-game substitutes for keep inventory. The most crucial ones include ender chests, recovery compasses, and totems of undying. These items can only be obtained through labor. They're difficult to come across, meaning the player has to have progressed enough in the game in order to get them. At the very least, someone can make the case that they aren't cheating since the player has to actually earn them, whereas keep inventory is a privilege that's never earned. Additionally, one cool thing is that all three of those items have logical explanations for existing within Minecraft. Ender chests are consistent with the end's theme of teleportation, as any item a player puts in one ender chest, they can access/store that item in all ender chests. The deep dark and ancient cities revolve around dying. It makes at least some sense that integrating sculk material into a compass can show the location of a player's death. And since evokers are experts in the field of black magic, it wouldn't be a stretch to imagine them creating and carrying totems of undying. As it turns out, Minecraft wants the players to work towards obtaining these items so they can prove their skill at surviving. The developers designed the game in a way such that the player can avoid all the pain of dying without needing to turn on keep inventory. In a way, players who play normally respect the core gameplay loop of Minecraft much more than keep inventory players do because of this utilization of progression within the core gameplay loop. But okay, Richard has one last point to make, so let's hear that one.
Although keep inventory is a gameplay aid in my eyes, Minecraft itself proclaims it a cheat. But if this gameplay aid is a cheat, then the presence of a certain difficulty setting labels the game as hypocritical to me. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce you to Peaceful Mode. In case you are unaware, Peaceful Mode is a difficulty setting that, when enabled, disables the ability for most hostile mobs to spawn in the world, with a few exceptions including shulkers, piglins, and the Ender Dragon. While these mobs will spawn, they will behave passively towards the player. It is also interesting to note that if Peaceful Mode is turned on while hostile mobs are present, they will instantly despawn. Setting the difficulty to Peaceful will also cause the player to regain hearts faster than normal, and disable hunger bar depletion altogether. While you still can die with Peaceful Mode enabled, it can't be denied that this mode offers up a fair bit of aid to the player when turned on. The lack of hostile mobs and the rapid health regeneration make exploration for resources to mine and use to craft structures and items a cakewalk, while the non-degrading hunger bar eliminates the need to explore to acquire the resources necessary to create reliable food sources. While Peaceful Mode doesn't interrupt the core gameplay loop of Minecraft, the aid it provides alters the gameplay experience enough that makes me wonder why this difficulty setting is not considered cheating while keep inventory is. After all, if aiding the player in a way that doesn't break the core gameplay loop isn't considered breaking the rules, then players choosing to be able to hold on to their items upon death should not be locked out of earning achievements in their worlds.
The observation that Peaceful Mode seems hypocritical isn't the worst point Richard could have made. However, it has one major flaw in relation to the rest of the video, and that's because it doesn't prove anything about keep inventory itself. It's dependent upon the other 2 points, meaning it only serves as further proof that keep inventory shouldn't be a cheat if those points already prove why keep inventory shouldn't be a cheat. This issue stems from the fact that he worded this section in a way that makes it vague on whether or not he thinks Peaceful Mode is a cheat. It seems like he was close to realizing what was wrong with his definition of cheating, and instead of refining it, he created this section to make it look as though he had officially proved keep inventory shouldn't be a cheat. In other words, this section was a complete red herring. The thing is, I'm completely fine with players choosing to play with keep inventory on so long as they accept it's a cheat. I understand many players treat Minecraft as a chill game and choose only to play how they're comfortable. There are even a few worlds I've played in where I had keep inventory on. All I'm arguing for is that players who choose to interact with Minecraft in this way accept that they shouldn't be able to earn achievements in the world with keep inventory on for all the reasons I've laid out in this video. The players who expect to earn achievements with the idea that keep inventory isn't a cheat fundamentally misunderstand the function achievements are supposed to serve. Achievements are, by their nature, a marker of what one can accomplish in a game, and for that reason, most of them won't be easy. They can also serve as a way to distinguish between who has played the game legitimately and who has not. The word achievements makes it clear that the player has to achieve them. They are not participation trophies, and they should remain as such. If it wasn't obvious, the point I'm trying to make with this video is that keep inventory is basically unnecessary for survival. The player has all the tools they need at their disposal to survive without it. All they would need is to develop the skills necessary to be able to use those tools effectively. The game is supposed to teach those skills to the players so that through trial and error, they can become a better player. That is essentially the spirit behind the survival mode of Minecraft. By choosing to play with keep inventory on, that player is going against the spirit of what it means to play a survival game. This is why so many normal players have a problem with keep inventory players. It's also the most likely reason why keep inventory is a cheat. Saying Minecraft shouldn't dissuade players from playing with keep inventory on because it's supposed to be a survival sandbox video game doesn't really hold up when the game is already designed to be a survival sandbox. The survival part is the survival mode itself. The actual sandbox part is creative mode. As far as explaining why keep inventory isn't a cheat goes, this video went over just the basics. I didn't want to have to cover every single aspect right now since that would take me a really long time. This video already took a long time to make and I don't want to delay it any further. I'm considering making a follow-up video to this one at some point in the future, so make sure to keep an eye on that when it comes out. If you feel like I've gotten anything wrong or missed something during this video, make sure to leave a comment so that I can respond to it in that future video. But for now, this is a good place for me to be done with this video since I've already finished the response.